So I came back about 4 years ago, and last year I was actually at a private school, St. Stithians, as their head of football, and then just joined the program this year.
Okay, so you've joined the program this year. We've obviously known that you've done a couple of trial sessions.
Yes.
For the sake of health, we've found some cover here because just to give guys context, it's about 32 degrees right now, 12 in the afternoon. But the crazy thing is probably thousands of kids behind you. Just, Saturday and Sunday, which is today, how many kids have been here and how much did you expect to be here?
Sure. Let's put it this way. Over the 2 weekends that we've been in Mamelodi, we've averaged over 500 kids per day, which is significantly more than we expected.
Yeah.
And sadly and unfortunately, we've actually had to turn players away. And that's largely because of facilities and the limitations that we have there. But really, to be quite honest, it's in spite of the numbers, it's been an unbelievable experience. It's literally, I think it's obviously something that the community is looking for. They've all turned up in their droves, and the talent has been tremendous. And it's just, our bottom line, it's just been fantastic. We see so many boys and girls out here.
I mean, it's in Mamelodi, but I'm guessing that you've received more than Mamelodi here at this field.
Yes, as we were speaking a little bit earlier, we've even got a young lady as far as Limpopo, and she's a little gem, so we'll be definitely trying to find a place for her to play as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, we see these kids coming from other provinces all the way to here. Let's say in a case whereby one of those kids or a couple of them, they get selected. So how do you plan on integrating them or accommodating them in the team?
Yeah, at this age, I probably wouldn't look to. In fact, what we would try and do is help facilitate an environment closer to home. Because the last thing we need or want is a youngster to spend 4 hours in the car. But what it really speaks to is obviously the need for decent quality football programs throughout the country. And that's obviously something that Coach P is looking to do. I don't know whether you guys are aware, obviously, our school program, where we're in 12 schools with Kiro, and they deserve a huge shout out as far as that's concerned. But this is our fourth site as far as our clubs are concerned. As far as Pitso Mosimane Football Club, we've got Boksburg, Midrand, North Riding, and now Mamelodi. And in the future, we hope to obviously expand throughout the country.
Just to context, is it one football club or you're going to have a Boksburg, Mamelodi, and where will you guys be playing your football? For example, we know there's a successful GDL league brewing. Where exactly will this club be situated?
Okay, so the Boksburg one plays out of Eastern's LFA.
Okay.
And then Midrand and North Riding will be playing out of Rand Central LFA.
Yeah.
And then obviously here we're part of MALFA, which is the Mamelodi Local Football Association.
Okay.
So referencing the GDL, that's obviously one of our goals in the future. But obviously it's a process that takes time. And as we develop our youngsters, we hope to be able to compete at that level in the future.
Yeah, Coach, just on the point of the PMSS partnering with Curo to be specific, do you maybe in the long run plan to maybe find some of your candidates that you've selected and put them into those schools? Is that something that you plan in the long run?
Yes, definitely. In fact, it's twofold. I mean, one, we will actively recruit players on behalf of Curo schools, but ultimately, guys, our big dream and goal is to create our own school. So yes, we use soccer schools as a training program, but ultimately we want to be able to house and educate our players in the future.
I mean, in this trial process, I'm sure you've seen a lot of players, and I've dig deeper into the scouting, histories and things like that. It's sometimes you can miss someone. But has there been a couple of players that are just unavoidably talent, with your eyes?
Definitely. I mean, I'm glad you said it. I mean, the trial process is a difficult one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I wish I could say that there wasn't going to be anybody that falls through the cracks, but there will be. I mean, it's impossible to get it perfect, especially with the numbers here. But the players that you refer to, those diamonds, they rise to the top very quickly. And obviously, if you're a coach that knows what he's doing, they're easy to identify, and those are the ones that we can sort of pushed aside very early on in the trials process.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Pitso said something very interesting. He said, strikers is what we're lacking, and this is part of, not the only thing, but it's part of the reason why he was so passionate about it. Is there a key emphasis on finding those natural goal scorers? Have you seen any
You know, I wouldn't say specific, position specific, but at the end of the day, there's that natural flair and natural talent.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously with my experience overseas, the biggest thing that I feel we lack is discipline and structure.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you think about that natural talent that we possess as a country, and you combine that with a more structured, disciplined environment. That's you're creating the player of tomorrow. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and just on the women's football, it's very interesting that you've also included young girls into your program. How important is it that they're also part of the grassroots development in our country?
Yeah, definitely. I think that needs to be a focus across the board, throughout SAFA, throughout the country. Again, to reference my experience in America, I've seen firsthand what sports does for girls. And I think we're doing them a bit of an injustice in this country, and it's something that we need to prioritize. So yes, in fact, we're bringing girls on no matter what level, no matter what talent or ability. We want to get them started, and hopefully that will attract even more girls to the program.
What I really wanted to know also is with your experience in US football and, like you said, I think it was university college football. Do you have how can I say, a vision or imprint of how you see this going? Because I know it's not just about football, it's also about education, especially in this country. So do you have a certain vision of how the future looks for this Pitso Mosimane soccer school?
Yeah, I mean, obviously our curriculum takes a holistic approach. I mean, and really to sum up what you said, it's about creating opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, I never dreamt of going to the United States, and it was football that got me there. And then I'd never dreamt of becoming a soccer coach and realizing that you could actually make a living of it. And it was once again, it was football that gave me that opportunity. And I actually just referenced it to a whole group of boys and girls earlier. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, everybody wants to be a professional footballer, they put up their hands. But it doesn't have to be just that. You can go overseas, you can get a university scholarship, and you could end up becoming a coach, just like myself. So,
Like us, we became journalists.
yeah, they're perfect. Exactly. And I mean, it could be from the medical side, it could be from the management side, even the marketing side. So, yes, for us, and I'll be honest, I came back to this country really to be where I am right now. I wanted to get into the communities so that we can literally provide just boys and girls with something that they don't have, they're not exposed to, and perhaps just might change their lives in the long run.
How much influence does Coach Pitso have on the project?
He oversees quite a bit of it. A lot of times it trickles through Moira, obviously, as well, because I see her on a day-to-day basis. But, you know, he set us some lofty goals that we obviously have to aspire to. But really, the fact that we're exposed to literally over 12,000 boys and girls. So our curriculum, our philosophy, it's going to take time. It's not a magic wand. It's not going to happen overnight. But it is something that we certainly will pursue on a long-term basis.
The final one from me is there's been a big issue, not just in South Africa, but in Africa as a whole, in terms of development. Not because they're not developing talent, but the people who are actually developing the talent are getting cut off from the money. For example, we go to West Africa. These academies like Real Bamako, they sell their players to France. The players become household superstars, get sold for millions of pounds and things like that. How do you avoid, if you develop a little 15-year-old here and he gets picked up by, I don't know, I'm not going to mention club's name for not to be a sensationalist or whatever, but any club, how do you avoid that?
You know, I don't think you're going to avoid it, unfortunately.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I think it is a lot about education. And it's not just education from our club system program, it's educating the parents too. Because those are the individuals that are often connected with these guys that you're referring to, and then they're swayed. And there's a lot of false promises made, by the way. And that's where people get lured into these types of things. So to me, it really does boil down to education. I wish we could say it should be eliminated. I know that there are rules that govern it. And it's maybe a matter of making sure that everybody starts to try to enforce those. And the problem is, if you don't have the money to begin with, how do you make sure that you hold somebody accountable?
Lastly, I know this is early stages, but a big part of it, and you would know this, is nutrition in the difference between good and professional. How are you going to combat some of that issues, because you can only be on the pitch for a certain time, and then if you go and eat McDonald's or KFC or not eat at all, how do you combat those type of issues?
Listen, it's a legitimate problem, and it's something that I have an exercise science background, so obviously it's something that I'm very interested in. But again, it's going to have to become where we get more sponsors, etc., on board, because it's a problem that is universal. And the thing is that we're asking these guys just today. They've been out in the sun for 2-3 hours, and you actually have to ask yourself, what did they actually do to prepare themselves, whether it be nutrition, fluids, that type of stuff. So we talk about percentages. It's the sports psychology side of it, it's the nutrition, it's even sleep. These things that some of us just take for granted. And unfortunately these kids aren't in the same situation. So my perfect answer to that is, once we get our own facility, we can make sure that we look after that.
And given that you've lived in both worlds, the US and South Africa, what do you call it? Soccer or football?
You know what the funny thing is? When I went there, I obviously had to call it soccer because of American football. Now when I come back here, I'm like, okay, cool, I can finally call it football. But no, I did so many road shows with Kuro, and I actually even asked the kids, and it was like, they said soccer. So you'll catch me, I use both just all the time. It's a funny, I mean, I love the question because it made me laugh because I deal with it all the time.
No, that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thanks, guys.